the midst of World War II, a weapon was born that would forever change the face of warfare, the STG-44, a name that echoes through the annals of history. It wasn't just another rifle, it was a revolution in design, a precursor to the modern assault rifle. But how did this groundbreaking weapon come to be, and how did it shape the future of military technology, from its early prototypes to the battlefield triumphs and the legacy it left behind? Today, we journey back in time to uncover the story of the STG-44, 45, the weapon that laid the foundation for the firearms of the future. The STG-44, often hailed as the world's first true assault rifle, has left an indelible mark on the history of modern warfare. Although its origins lie in the desperation of late World War II Germany, the STG-44's design and functionality have influenced countless firearms that followed, making it a familiar sight even in conflicts today. In recent years, the sight of modern soldiers wielding weapons inspired by the STG-44 or the STG-44 itself has become a familiar image across various battlefields, from the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, and even as recently as Ukraine. The STG-44's revolutionary design set the foundation for modern assault rifles, including the widely used M4A1 and its descendants, such as the M4 carbine. These weapons continue to serve as the backbone of infantry forces thanks to their adaptability and effectiveness in diverse combat scenarios. The STG-44 was a groundbreaking weapon when it was introduced by Nazi Germany in 1944. It was designed to bridge the gap between conventional rifles and submachine guns, offering the firepower of the former with the rapid-fire capability and maneuverability of the latter. The rifle was chambered for the 7.92 33mm Kurz cartridge, which provided a balance between range and recoil, making it effective at both short and medium distances. This versatility made the STG-44 an invaluable tool for German soldiers during the war, particularly on the Eastern Front, where engagements often took place at varied ranges. The influence of the STG-44 on post-war firearms development cannot be overstated. After the war, captured STG-44s were studied by the Allies, and its design concepts were incorporated into future weaponry. The Soviet AK-47, arguably the most recognizable and widely used assault rifle in history, owes much of its design philosophy to the STG-44. Similarly, the US military's M16, introduced in the 1960s and continually refined over the decades to the M4A1 today, also carries the legacy of the STG-44's pioneering design. Today, the legacy of the STG-44 lives on not only in the weapons that have followed, but also in its enduring symbolism. It represents a pivotal moment in military history when the concept of the assault rifle was born, forever changing the way wars are fought. The adaptability, firepower and influence of the STG-44 have secured its place as a legendary firearm, revered by military historians and firearms enthusiasts alike. Its contributions to the evolution of small arms ensure that even decades later, the spirit of the STG-44 is still felt on battlefields around the world. The M16's predecessor, and indeed the forerunner of all modern assault rifles, is the German MP-44 Sturmgewehr assault rifle. This revolutionary weapon was born out of a unique and critical chapter in the history of German armament development, one that would have profound implications for future infantry combat. The creation of the MP-44 was directly influenced by the lessons learned during the brutal trench warfare of World War I. The static, grueling nature of trench combat underscored the need for more versatile and efficient infantry weapons. The traditional rifles of the time, which were often cumbersome and slow to operate, were ill-suited to the rapid and chaotic engagements that typified this new style of warfare. As a result, it became evident that infantry combat was entering a new era, one that required a fundamental shift in weapon design and strategy. For decades, German soldiers had relied on various iterations of the bolt-action Mauser rifle, a weapon that had been in service since the 1870s. The Mauser was renowned for its accuracy and reliability, but its design was rooted in an earlier era of warfare, where long-range marksmanship and individual shooting skills were paramount. By the early 1930s, however, the nature of conflict was evolving, with greater emphasis on mobility, volume of fire, and the ability to engage effectively at varying ranges. As Germany began to rearm in the 1930s, in defiance of the restrictions imposed by the Treaty of Versailles, a comprehensive re-evaluation of all weaponry was undertaken. This clandestine rearmament effort was not just about expanding the quantity of arms, but also about innovating and modernizing them. The focus shifted particularly to infantry small arms, recognizing that these would be the tools of the frontline soldiers in any future conflict. The German military and arms manufacturers understood that the standard issue rifles, which had served well in the past, were now becoming obsolete in the face of modern warfare's demands. There was a clear need for a new kind of weapon, one that could combine the firepower of a machine gun with the portability and versatility of a rifle. This realization set the stage for the development of the MP-44, which would eventually become the world's first true assault rifle, changing the face of infantry combat forever. It became increasingly evident that the bolt-action Mauser, despite its impressive 2-mile range and reputation for accuracy, was becoming obsolete in the rapidly evolving context of modern warfare. The Mauser's design, which featured a limited 5-round magazine, was a relic of an earlier era, when long-range precision was the primary requirement for infantry weapons. However, as warfare tactics evolved, particularly with the experiences drawn from World War I and the early stages of World War II, most importantly Stalingrad, but I will touch on that later in the video, it became clear that a new type of combat was emerging, one that the Mauser was not equipped to handle effectively. The limitations of the Mauser were starkly apparent in the close quarters combat situations that were becoming more frequent on the battlefield. Soldiers needed a weapon that could deliver rapid firepower in the chaotic and fast-paced environment of modern engagements. The Mauser's slow rate of fire and limited ammunition capacity made it ill-suited to these demands, leading military strategists and weapons designers to the realization that a replacement was necessary. However, finding a suitable alternative proved to be a significant challenge. The emerging combat model of the early 20th century emphasized the importance of close-quarters engagement, where speed and volume of fire could often determine the outcome of a battle, even in the early stages of World War II with the rapid movement of blitzkrieg. This new model called for weapons that could provide rapid, sustained fire to overwhelm enemy forces, a stark contrast to the long-range single-shot precision that had characterized earlier conflicts. Submachine guns of the era, with their ability to deliver a high rate of fire at close range, seemed to meet many of these new requirements. However, they came with their own set of challenges, most notably the high cost and time-intensive process involved in their manufacture. Producing submachine guns on the scale required by modern armies was a daunting prospect, both logistically and economically. For the Germans, the MP-40 was a rare sight. Not all soldiers could have one, which is why the PPSH-44 was so popular among German soldiers. Given these constraints, the ideal solution seemed to lie in the development of a hybrid weapon, one that could combine the best attributes of both rifles and submachine guns. Such a weapon would offer the precision and accuracy of a traditional rifle, essential for medium-range engagements, while also providing the high ammunition capacity and rapid fire capability of a submachine gun, necessary for close-quarters combat. This hybrid would be a more effective tool for the contemporary infantryman, capable of adapting to the varied and unpredictable nature of modern warfare. The search for this hybrid weapon was driven by the need to equip soldiers with a versatile and reliable firearm that could handle the diverse challenges they faced on the battlefield. This weapon would not only need to bridge the gap between the long-range precision of a rifle and the close-range firepower of a submachine gun, but also be feasible to produce in large quantities. The development of such a weapon would ultimately lead to the creation of the assault rifle, a revolutionary new class of firearm that would redefine infantry combat for generations to come. While the development of a new cartridge seemed essential to meet the demands of modern warfare, the prospect of retooling Germany's highly standardized munitions industry was far from favorable. This challenge posed a significant obstacle to the creation of the new weapon that the German military so urgently needed. The existing infrastructure was deeply entrenched, optimized for producing a specific range of munitions that had served Germany's armed forces for decades. Any deviation from this established production line would require extensive changes, not only in machinery and tools, but also in logistics and supply chains, leading to increased costs and delays at a time when speed and efficiency were paramount. Retooling an industry as vast and complex as Germany's munitions sector was a daunting proposition. The existing cartridge designs had been perfected over many years, with manufacturing processes standardized to ensure consistency and reliability in the field. Introducing a new cartridge would necessitate a complete overhaul of this system, requiring new machinery, recalibrated production techniques, and retrained personnel. Additionally, it would involve transitioning the entire supply chain to support the production and distribution of the new ammunition. This was no small feat, particularly in the context of an increasingly pressured wartime economy where resources were already stretched thin. Despite these formidable challenges, history has repeatedly demonstrated that German ordnance experts have a remarkable ability to overcome obstacles in weapon design. Time and again, they have shown ingenuity and determination in the face of seemingly insurmountable difficulties. This reputation for innovation was well earned, with German engineers historically known for their meticulous attention to detail and relentless pursuit of excellence in weaponry. Faced with the necessity of developing a new weapon system, German ordnance experts approached the task with their characteristic resolve. They understood that the key to success lay not only in the creation of a new cartridge, but in the ability to integrate this innovation seamlessly into the existing framework of the munitions industry. This required a careful balancing act, designing a cartridge that met the new tactical requirements while also being compatible with, or at least adaptable to, the established manufacturing processes. During the Battle of Stalingrad, German soldiers found themselves in one of the most brutal urban combat environments of World War II. The fighting took place in the ruins of a city, characterized by close quarters engagements in buildings, streets, and factories. In such conditions, the standard issue weapon for most German infantrymen, the Karabiner 98K, a bolt-action rifle, posed significant challenges. While the Kar 98K was reliable and accurate at longer distances, its bolt-action mechanism required the shooter to manually cycle the bolt after each shot, which greatly reduced the rate of fire in close combat situations. This was a severe disadvantage in the urban warfare of Stalingrad, where combat often occurred at very short ranges, with enemies appearing suddenly from behind cover or in confined spaces. The limitations of the Kar 98K were compounded by the fact that the MP40, a submachine gun better suited for close quarters battle, was not issued to every soldier. The MP40 had a fully automatic firing mode, which allowed for a much higher rate of fire, making it far more effective in the close, chaotic quarters of urban warfare. However, due to production limitations and the German military's doctrine, which still emphasized the use of rifles for the majority of infantry, the MP40 was typically reserved for officers, NCOs, and specialized troops like assault engineers. As a result, many German soldiers found themselves outgunned in close encounters with Soviet troops, who often wielded more appropriate weapons for such situations, like the PPSH-41 submachine gun, which was widely distributed among Red Army soldiers. The defeat at Stalingrad served as a wake-up call for the German military leadership. It became clear that new, more effective weapons were urgently needed to better equip soldiers for the kind of close-quarters fighting that had become increasingly common on the Eastern Front. The experience at Stalingrad and other similar battles highlighted the necessity of developing firearms that combined the accuracy and range of a rifle with the rate of fire and maneuverability of a submachine gun. But it's also important to note that the Mashkin and Karabiner 42 Hainl was already in development at this time, and even at the end of 1942 some soldiers were already getting their hand on the new prototype, but Stalingrad was the sign the German High Command had to get this issue in check. Close quarter weapons were an absolute necessity for the upcoming years in the East. The Red Army's tactics often involved closing the distance quickly, engaging in brutal close quarters combat where the effectiveness of a soldier's weapon could mean the difference between life and death. Through a combination of technical expertise, creativity, and resourcefulness, German engineers were able to devise solutions that allowed for the development of a new weapon system without the need for a complete overhaul of the munitions industry. Their ability to innovate within the constraints of the existing infrastructure was a testament to their skill and adaptability. In the end, this approach not only led to the successful creation of the new weapon, but also ensured that it could be produced efficiently and deployed effectively, even under the challenging conditions of war. The success of this endeavour reinforced the reputation of German ordnance experts as leaders in weapon design, capable of rising to any challenge and delivering results that would have a lasting impact on military technology. Their efforts paved the way for the introduction of the assault rifle, a weapon that would revolutionise infantry combat. Studies conducted in the lead-up to the development of a new rifle revealed a crucial insight. The majority of infantry engagements at that time took place within a 300 to 400 yard range. This finding was pivotal as it highlighted the inadequacies of existing rifle designs, which were optimized for much longer distances, often exceeding a mile. The emphasis on long-range precision was increasingly out of step with the realities of modern combat, where close-quarters engagements and mobile warfare dominated the battlefield. The studies underscored the need for a rifle that could deliver both power and accuracy within this shorter, effective range, while also being more manageable for the infantryman. To meet these new tactical requirements, it became clear that a smaller cartridge was necessary, one that could still maintain the stopping power needed to neutralise the enemy effectively at these reduced ranges. This shift in thinking was not only theoretical, but was also validated by real-world experiences. During the Spanish Civil War, battle reports provided concrete evidence of the critical role that concentrated and overwhelming firepower played in determining the outcomes of key engagements. The lessons learned from these reports further reinforced the idea that sheer volume of fire rather than long-range precision was often the decisive factor in close combat situations. In addition to tactical advantages, the adoption of a smaller cartridge offered a significant practical benefit. It allowed infantrymen to carry more ammunition. This increase in ammunition capacity directly translated to greater combat endurance, enabling soldiers to sustain fire for longer periods without the need for resupply. In an era where mobility and sustained engagements were becoming increasingly common, this advantage could make the difference between victory and defeat. In response to these findings, the Heereswaffenamt, or Army Weapons Office, took decisive action by establishing detailed specifications for a new weapon system in 1941. The specifications called for a rifle that could meet the new demands of modern warfare, incorporating the lessons learned from both studies and battlefield experiences. As the development process progressed, it became evident that the Hainl design held distinct advantages over its competitors. The Hainl-Schmeisser team's prior experience with reduced-load cartridges, such as those used in submachine guns, gave them a deep understanding of the unique challenges associated with designing a weapon that fired smaller, intermediate-power ammunition. This expertise proved invaluable in creating a rifle that could reliably fire the new cartridge while maintaining the necessary performance characteristics. The Hainl design was noted for its simplicity, which was a critical factor in its ultimate selection. In the context of wartime production, where speed and efficiency were paramount, a design that could be easily standardized and rapidly produced was highly desirable. The Hainl rifle's straightforward construction not only facilitated quicker manufacturing, but also ensured that the weapon could be produced in large quantities without sacrificing quality or reliability. These attributes made the Haenel design the preferred choice, as it aligned perfectly with the Army Weapons Office's goals of fielding an effective and versatile infantry weapon as quickly as possible. In the end, the Haenel design emerged victorious, setting the stage for the introduction of the Sturmgewehr 44 STG-44, the first true assault rifle and a weapon that would revolutionize infantry combat. The STG-44 would go on to influence the design of countless future firearms, cementing its place in military history as a groundbreaking innovation born out of necessity and strategic foresight. The cartridge that was ultimately selected as the standard for this new class of rifle was the 7.92mm Kurs Patroni, or short cartridge. This choice was a strategic one, carefully balancing the need for innovation with the practical constraints of wartime production. By retaining the same caliber as the widely used 8mm Mauser cartridge, the 7.92mm Kurz offered a significant advantage. It minimized the need for extensive and costly changes to the existing manufacturing processes. This decision allowed the German munitions industry to leverage its established expertise and infrastructure, ensuring a smoother transition to the new ammunition while avoiding the disruptions that would have come with a completely new caliber. The key modification that distinguished the 7.92mm Kurz from its predecessor was the reduction of the case length from 57mm to 33mm. This seemingly simple change had profound implications for the cartridge's performance and role on the battlefield. By shortening the case, the designers effectively reduced the amount of propellant that could be housed within, which in turn decreased the overall range of the cartridge. However, this reduction in range was a calculated trade-off, aligning with the tactical realities identified in studies and battlefield reports that showed most infantry engagements occurred at shorter distances. Despite the reduced case length, the 7.92mm Kurz was carefully engineered to retain a sufficient powder load, ensuring that it remained powerful and lethal within its intended range. The designers understood that while long-range engagements were becoming less common, the need for stopping power in close to medium-range combat was as critical as ever. The cartridge's robust caliber inherited from the 8mm Mauser played a vital role in this regard, providing the necessary kinetic energy to incapacitate or eliminate enemy combatants effectively. The 7.92mm Kurs Patroni was, therefore, a product of both necessity and ingenuity. Its design ensured that it could meet the demands of modern combat by delivering reliable performance within the more common engagement ranges of 300 to 400 yards. At the same time, the decision to retain the familiar 7.92mm caliber allowed for seamless integration into the existing production lines, avoiding the pitfalls of introducing an entirely new ammunition type during a period of intense military pressure. The first model developed by Haenel, primarily designed by the renowned arms designer Hugo Schmeisser, was introduced in 1942 under the designation MKB-42 Karabiner or Carbine. This early prototype represented a bold and significant departure from the traditional small arms design that had dominated military arsenals for decades. The MKB-42 was not merely an incremental improvement but a radical innovation, signalling the arrival of a groundbreaking weapon that would forever change the landscape of infantry combat. The introduction of the MKB-42 shattered conventional notions of what a small arm could be. Traditional rifles of the era were typically bolt action, emphasizing long-range accuracy at the cost of rate of fire. In contrast, the MKB-42 was conceived as a fully automatic weapon capable of delivering rapid and sustained fire while still being manageable for the average soldier. This shift in design philosophy reflected the changing nature of warfare, where mobility, volume of fire, and versatility had become crucial factors in determining the effectiveness of infantry units. One of the most innovative features of the MKB-42 was its gas piston system, which was revolutionary for automatic weapons at the time. This system used the expanding gases from a fired cartridge to cycle the action, allowing for reliable and consistent operation even in the harsh conditions of battle. The gas piston system not only enhanced the weapon's durability, but also contributed to its accuracy and control, making it a formidable tool in the hands of well-trained soldiers. However, it's important to note that while the gas piston system was indeed groundbreaking for fully automatic rifles, a similar system had already been employed in the US M1 Garand semi-automatic rifle, which was introduced in the 1930s. The M1 Garand's gas-operated mechanism was a significant advance in firearm technology, enabling the rifle to fire 8 rounds in rapid succession without manual cycling. This feature made the M1 Garand one of the most effective rifles of its time and demonstrated the global advances in firearm technology that were occurring during that era. The development of the MKB-42, therefore, must be seen in the context of these broader technological trends. While it was a pioneering design in many respects, it also built upon and refined existing concepts that had been explored in other parts of the world. The global nature of these advancements highlights the interconnectedness of military technology development during World War II, where innovations in one country could quickly influence and inspire designs in another. Most earlier automatic small arms relied on a blowback system, a relatively simple yet effective mechanism in which the explosion of the fired bullet directly propelled the bolt rearward. This rearward motion of the bolt ejected the spent casing from the firing chamber and prepared the weapon for the next shot. As the bolt moved forward again under spring tension, it would chamber a new round from the magazine, and the bolt's forward momentum would drive the fixed firing pin into the fresh cartridge, igniting it and continuing the cycle. This method, while straightforward, had its limitations and was commonly associated with weapons that fired from an open bolt position. In the open bolt system, the bolt remains fully cocked and locked in place at the rear of the receiver until the trigger is pulled. Only then does the bolt fly forward, chambering a round and firing it in a single rapid motion. While this system allowed for relatively simple and reliable automatic fire, it also introduced a significant vulnerability. Maintaining a high level of readiness required keeping the bolt cocked and open, leaving the firing chamber exposed to environmental elements such as dust, dirt, and moisture. In harsh battlefield conditions, this exposure could lead to malfunctions, as debris could easily enter the chamber, potentially causing jams or other operational failures at critical moments. The MKB-42 in its initial design adhered to this traditional blowback approach, following the well-established practices of the time. However, the weapon also introduced a significant innovation with its gas piston system, a more advanced mechanism that offered a different method of cycling the action. Instead of relying solely on the force of the fired cartridge to drive the bolt back, the gas piston system channeled the explosive energy from the fired round into a gas tube, strategically positioned above or alongside the barrel. This high-pressure gas was then used to drive a piston backward, which in turn engaged the bolt, forcing it to retract and eject the spent cartridge. As the piston completed its rearward stroke, the bolt was pushed forward once more by a return spring, chambering a new round and readying the weapon for the next shot. This system was more efficient and controlled than the traditional blowback mechanism, providing smoother operation and better handling, particularly in fully automatic fire. Despite these improvements, the MKB-42's gas piston system still operated from an open bolt position, inheriting the same vulnerability to environmental factors as its blowback predecessors. While the gas piston system represented a leap forward in terms of operational efficiency and reliability, especially in sustained fire scenarios, the open bolt operation remained a limitation. This configuration, though efficient in cooling the barrel and reducing the risk of accidental discharge, since the firing pin is not in contact with the cartridge until the moment of firing, continued to expose the firing chamber to potential contamination. Engineers and designers were well aware of these trade-offs, and the MKB-42's design reflected a careful balancing act between the benefits of new technology and the practical realities of battlefield conditions. The introduction of the MKB-42 marked not just a breakthrough in weapon design, but also a transformation in manufacturing processes. Unlike earlier firearms, which were meticulously crafted with finely machined components, the MKB-42 embraced a more industrial approach, utilizing stamped and pressed metal parts. This shift was a deliberate move to simplify and speed up production, reflecting the urgent demands of wartime. The use of stamped metal parts allowed for quicker, less labor-intensive production compared to traditional machining methods. This approach significantly reduced the time and resources needed to produce each weapon, making it possible to manufacture the MKB-42 in greater quantities without sacrificing quality. The weapon's construction was revolutionary, emphasizing efficiency and practicality over the precision craftsmanship that had characterized previous generations of firearms. Moreover, the manufacturing process was decentralized, with the majority of the MKB-42's components being produced by various subcontractors. These parts were then brought together and assembled at the main factory. This method of production, where different components were made independently and in parallel, was highly effective in reducing delays. By ensuring that the completion of one part did not depend on others, this approach minimized bottlenecks in the production line, maintaining a steady flow and allowing for more consistent output. Initial difficulties in coordinating the various subcontractors initially caused Haenel to fall short of its contract delivery requirements. These challenges, however, were swiftly addressed, allowing production to ramp up efficiently. Recognizing the need to meet the growing demand, Walter, the runner-up in the original design competition, was also brought into the production effort. This collaboration between Haenel and Walter proved highly effective. By February 1943, their combined efforts not only met, but exceeded the monthly production quota of 1,000 weapons, delivering 1,217 units. In the course of refining the production process, certain design elements were re-evaluated for practicality. One such feature was the bayonet lug, originally intended to be included on the MKB-42. However, it was ultimately decided that the bayonet lug was unnecessary for the weapon's intended use. Furthermore, incorporating it would have added complexity and time to the manufacturing process, which was already under pressure to produce large quantities quickly. Abandoning the bayonet lug allowed for a more streamlined production process, focusing on delivering the core functionality of the weapon without delays. Walter's contribution to the development of the new weapon extended well beyond the initial production phase. After additional trials and evaluations, a significant design change was made. The original open bolt striker system of the Haenel design was replaced with the more effective hammer-fired trigger mechanism from Walter's design. This refinement marked a crucial improvement, allowing the MKB-42 to be fired from a closed bolt position, which was a substantial advancement in the weapon's operation and reliability. The introduction of the hammer-fired system meant that the bolt no longer relied on forward momentum to drive the firing pin into the chambered cartridge. Instead, the bolt remained closed until the moment of firing, significantly reducing the exposure of the firing chamber to environmental elements such as dust and debris. This closed bolt system provided better protection in harsh conditions, enhancing the weapon's durability and reliability in the field. To further safeguard the internal components, an ejector port cover was added to the design. This spring-loaded cover would pop open during the cycling of the bolt, providing additional protection against contaminants when the weapon was not in use. This feature was a critical enhancement and would later be carried over into the design of future firearms, including the iconic M16 and M4 rifles used by the US military. Following these substantial modifications, the weapon was rebranded as the MP-43 or Maschinenpistole 43. This rebranding not only reflected the technical advancements made to the original design, but also marked the weapon's evolution into a more refined and effective tool for infantry combat. The MP-43 would go on to become one of the most influential firearms of its time, laying the groundwork for modern assault rifles and setting new standards in weapon design and functionality. A popular myth surrounding the MP-43 suggests that it was developed in secret without Hitler's knowledge and only received his approval after successful trials on the Eastern Front created overwhelming demand from the troops. While this story contains some elements of truth, the reality is more nuanced. Hitler, a veteran of World War I, held traditional views on military equipment, particularly favouring the reliable and accurate Mauser rifle, which had served German soldiers well for decades. He was also a firm advocate of standardising munitions manufacturing, believing that consistency in armaments was crucial for efficiency and effectiveness in warfare. Both of these convictions stood in contrast to the concept of an assault rifle, which represented a significant departure from the long-range bolt-action rifles like the Mauser. Although the development of the MP-43 wasn't literally hidden from Hitler, its initial designation as a carbine was somewhat misleading. The weapon was officially referred to as the MKB-42, where MKB stood for Maschinenkarabiner or machine carbine. By using the same nomenclature as the standard bolt-action Mauser infantry rifle, the Kar-98 or Karabiner 98, the new weapon was subtly framed as an evolution of the existing K-98, rather than as a groundbreaking new class of firearm. This clever naming strategy played a key role in masking the true revolutionary nature of the assault rifle concept from Hitler, at least initially. By presenting the MP-43 as an incremental improvement on a familiar and trusted weapon, those involved in its development were able to proceed without provoking immediate opposition from Hitler, who might have resisted the project if he had fully understood its implications. In this way, the designation helped to navigate the delicate political landscape of the Third Reich, allowing the assault rifle to gain a foothold in the German military before its true potential was fully recognised by the leadership. Even as the weapon evolved from the MKB-42, the true nature of the project was carefully obscured by designating the radically new firearm as a Maschinenpistole, machine pistol. This was a term Hitler was familiar with and had previously approved of, particularly due to his support for the MP-40 submachine gun. In reality, however, the MP-43 was neither a traditional rifle nor a submachine gun. Instead, it was a formidable hybrid of both, representing a revolutionary step forward in small arms design. The MP-43 was a substantial weapon, weighing in at 13 pounds, and it boasted an effective range of 600 meters. It featured a rate of fire between 500 and 600 rounds per minute and achieved a muzzle velocity of 2,200 feet per second. These characteristics positioned MP-43 as a highly effective tool for the modern battlefield, offering the firepower and rate of fire typically associated with submachine guns, combined with the range and accuracy expected from a rifle. This unique blend of attributes made the MP-43 a pioneering weapon that defied easy classification. A common misconception is that the weapon's first battlefield test occurred during the defense of the Kolm Pocket in February 1942. However, this is inaccurate, as no MKB-42 models had been delivered by that time. The weapon used in the Kolm Pocket was likely the Gewehr 41 semi-automatic rifle. The first true field test of the newly designated MP-43 took place in the spring of 1943, when it was issued to troops of the SS Division Viking. During these initial combat trials, the MP-43 proved to be an immediate success. The weapon demonstrated an impressive balance of firepower and controllability, which made it a standout in the field. Soldiers quickly appreciated the MP-43's ability to deliver sustained automatic fire while maintaining a manageable level of recoil, a combination that was particularly valuable in the close quarters and mixed-range combat scenarios commonly encountered on the Eastern Front. The success of these early trials solidified the MP-43's reputation and paved the way for its broader adoption within the German military, ultimately leading to its evolution into the STG-44, the world's first true assault rifle. The popular tale that Hitler, upon hearing glowing reports from his generals, enthusiastically christened the new weapon Sturmgewehr, assault rifle, in a burst of excitement is, in fact, a myth. The reality is far less dramatic. Hitler remained skeptical of the MP-43's effectiveness and was not initially convinced of its value. Contrary to the legend, his initial reaction was not one of enthusiasm, but rather of caution. In fact, he initially halted its development, unsure whether this new class of weapon could truly meet the needs of the German military. It was only after Hitler sought feedback directly from frontline troops, those who had experienced the brutal conditions of combat and could speak to the weapon's real-world performance, that he began to reconsider his position. Impressed by the positive reports from soldiers who had used the MP-43 in the field, Hitler eventually authorized limited production of the weapon in late 1943. However, this cautious approach and the initial delays in authorization meant that the weapon's production and deployment were significantly hampered from the outset. Notably in battles like Berlin, the STG-44 proved to be a game changer for many German soldiers. The final battle for Berlin was characterized by intense urban combat, with Soviet forces systematically advancing through the city, street by street and building by building. In this environment, the ability to fire rapidly at close range while still maintaining accuracy at medium distances was invaluable. The STG-44 allowed German soldiers to engage Soviet troops effectively in the narrow streets, rubble-filled alleys, and confined spaces of the city's buildings. Unlike the bolt-action Karabiner 98K, which was cumbersome and slow to operate in such close quarters, the STG-44's select fire capability enabled soldiers to switch between semi-automatic fire for precise shots and fully automatic fire for suppressive or close-range engagements. Similarly, during the Battle of Budapest, the STG-44 played a crucial role in the hands of German and Hungarian forces defending the city against overwhelming Soviet and Romanian attacks. The battle involved fierce house-to-house fighting, with defenders needing to hold key positions against relentless Soviet assaults. The STG-44's compact design and high rate of fire were particularly advantageous in the narrow streets and within the buildings of Budapest, where rapid, reactive shooting was essential. German soldiers equipped with the STG-44 could engage multiple targets quickly, suppress enemy advances, and effectively defend fortified positions against superior numbers. The weapon's ability to provide both sustained firepower and precision at short to medium ranges made it one of the few tools that could give German soldiers a fighting chance in these dire circumstances. Even after the weapon was officially renamed the MP-44 Sturmgewehr assault rifle, signifying its role as a new category of firearm, it remained functionally identical to the earlier MP-43. Unfortunately, the delays in development and the persistent challenges in manufacturing and supply chains prevented the Sturmgewehr from being produced in the quantities needed to make a decisive impact on the war. Despite its advanced design and the tactical advantages it offered, the Sturmgewehr was never produced in sufficient numbers to influence the outcome of battles on any front before the war came to an end. This missed opportunity underscores the complex interplay between innovation, logistics, and timing in the context of wartime production. In line with their approach to many World War II innovations, the German High Command sought to enhance the combat capabilities of the MP-43-44 by developing a range of specialized accessories. This led to a focused research and development effort aimed at adapting the weapon for various combat scenarios, pushing the boundaries of traditional firearm design. One of the most unusual and intriguing inventions to emerge from this effort was the Krummlauf, or bent barrel. The Krummlauf was a carefully engineered steel tube that attached to the weapon's muzzle, curving at either a 30 or 90 degree angle. This bizarre attachment was designed to allow soldiers to fire around corners or from behind cover, providing a tactical advantage in urban and trench warfare where direct exposure could be deadly. The concept was revolutionary, but it faced significant challenges in execution. The 90-degree version, while striking in its design, severely compromised the bullet's performance and velocity, making it largely ineffective in actual combat. The extreme angle caused too much friction and distortion as the bullet travelled through the barrel, leading to a dramatic loss of accuracy and power. As a result, this version never advanced beyond experimental stages. The 30-degree version, however, proved to be somewhat more practical and entered limited production. It offered a more manageable compromise between the curvature of the barrel and the preservation of the bullet's trajectory and speed. To complement this device, the Krummlauf was equipped with a periscope, allowing soldiers to aim and fire the weapon without exposing themselves to enemy fire. This feature was particularly useful in situations where traditional firing positions would have put soldiers at significant risk. The Krummlauf's unique design and purpose baffled the few enemy troops who encountered it, adding an element of mystique to the already formidable MP-43-44. While its practical applications were limited, the Krummlauf stands as a testament to the lengths to which German engineers were willing to go in their quest to innovate and adapt to the demands of modern warfare. The The Krummlauf was initially thought to be intended primarily for street fighting, allowing soldiers to see and fire around corners in the close quarters combat typical of urban warfare. However, its true purpose, while not widely recognised, was actually more specialised and aligned with Germany's tactical reliance on armoured vehicles, as well as their extensive experience facing Russian anti-tank strategies on the Eastern Front. The Krummlauf was specifically designed to enable infantrymen to fire their weapons from within the protective confines of an armoured vehicle. This innovation provided soldiers with a limited but clear field of vision, allowing them to engage attackers without exposing themselves to enemy fire. The curved barrel was particularly effective for sweeping attackers off the exterior of a vehicle, addressing a critical tactical need that had emerged from the brutal realities of combat against the Soviets. Russian troops had developed a strategy where they would lie in wait for German tanks or armoured vehicles, then climb onto them to attach explosives or otherwise disable the vehicle. The Krummlauf was designed as a direct countermeasure to this tactic. Its curved design allowed soldiers to fire at very short range with an unusual trajectory, ensuring that the bullet could effectively target enemies clinging to the vehicle's outer hull. This functionality required the Krummlauf to be highly specialised, capable of delivering accurate fire at extremely close distances while maintaining enough power to neutralise the threat. Although it was not widely used, the Krummlauf reflects the innovative and adaptive thinking that characterised German military engineering during the war. It was a response to a specific battlefield challenge, demonstrating how tactical needs could drive the development of unconventional and highly specialised weaponry. Another groundbreaking innovation associated with the MP-44, which has since become a standard feature in modern combat, was the development of an early night fighting system known as the Vampire. This pioneering infrared targeting system allowed soldiers to extend their combat capabilities into the darkness of night, a significant tactical advantage in an era when most fighting was limited to daylight hours. The Vampire system was an impressive piece of technology for its time, consisting of a large infrared searchlight that illuminated the battlefield with infrared light invisible to the naked eye, a specialized sniper scope that detected this infrared light, and a backpack-mounted battery pack that powered the entire setup. This combination allowed soldiers equipped with the Vampire to see and engage targets under the cover of darkness, a capability that was virtually unheard of during World War II. However, despite its advanced design, the Vampire system was bulky and cumbersome, which significantly limited its practicality in the field. The equipment's weight and size made it difficult for soldiers to maneuver effectively, particularly in the fast-paced and fluid conditions of combat. While reports suggest that the Vampire system saw some use during the final months of the war, it was never widely distributed or deployed. Approximately 300 units were produced, making it a rare and relatively obscure piece of wartime technology. The limited use of the Vampire system meant that it did not have a significant impact on the outcome of the war. However, its development marked an important step forward in the evolution of night fighting capabilities. The principles behind the Vampire would later be refined and miniaturized, eventually leading to the more practical and widely adopted night vision technologies that are standard in modern militaries today. Despite its limitations, the Vampire system is a testament to the innovative spirit of wartime engineers who continually sought new ways to push the boundaries of combat technology. In addition to its more groundbreaking innovations, the MP-44 was also equipped with a range of conventional accessories, such as sniper scopes and grenade launchers, which were integrated to enhance its versatility on the battlefield. These attachments were used with varying degrees of success, but it soon became apparent that the weapon performed most effectively when left unencumbered by additional equipment. In its unadorned form, the MP-44 excelled as a versatile infantry firearm, able to adapt to a wide range of combat scenarios without the need for extra accessories. However, the effectiveness of the MP-44 was significantly hampered by shortages of essential accessories that were critical for its operation. Unlike pre-war weapons, for which items like ammunition, magazines, magazine pouches, slings and cleaning kits had been produced in abundance, the MP-44 often suffered from a lack of these necessary supplies. These logistical challenges made it difficult to fully deploy and sustain the weapon in the field, undermining its potential impact. The shortages meant that soldiers often struggled to maintain and utilize the MP-44 to its full capacity, with limited access to the items needed for effective operation. This situation not only reduced the weapon's effectiveness, but also highlighted the broader difficulties faced by the German military in maintaining supply chains under the pressures of prolonged conflict. Despite its advanced design and combat potential, the MP-44's operational success was constrained by these logistical hurdles, preventing it from achieving the widespread impact that might have been possible under better supplied conditions. Although only around 80,000 units were produced and its combat service was relatively brief, the MP-44 holds a pivotal place in the history of firearms as the world's first select-fire assault rifle, setting a new standard for future weapon systems. Despite Anton Kalashnikov's denials, the influence of the MP-44 on the design of the AK-47 is unmistakable, with many elements of its design clearly reflected in Kalashnikov's iconic weapon. As we've explored the history and impact of the MP-44, it's clear that this groundbreaking weapon was far more than just another rifle in the arsenal of World War II. It was a revolutionary design that redefined infantry combat and set the stage for the modern assault rifles we see today. From its innovative select-fire capability to its influence on iconic firearms like the AK-47, the MP-44 laid the foundation for the versatile, powerful weapons that have become standard in military forces around the world. The MP-44 was truly a weapon ahead of its time, pioneering a new era of firearm design that continues to influence military technology to this day. Despite the challenges it faced during its production and deployment, the MP-44's legacy as the world's first assault rifle is undeniable. It served as the stepping stone for countless assault rifles that followed, shaping the evolution of modern warfare. These lessons were not lost on American military planners and firearms designers. After the war, as the US military looked to modernize its small arms, the principles behind the MP-44 influenced the development of the M16, which became the standard issue rifle for US forces. The M16, introduced in the 1960s, featured a similar selective fire capability and used an intermediate cartridge, the 5.56 45mm NATO round, which was lighter and more controllable than traditional full-power rifle cartridges. Thus, while the MP-44 was a German innovation, its design philosophy laid the groundwork for what would become the American M16 and, by extension, the broader category of assault rifles used by the US military and many other forces worldwide. Your knowledge about this gun is so solid now, you'll never have to read about it again. Seriously, if someone even mentions the STG, you'll be like, oh, that old thing? Please, I did my research, I'm practically an expert now. That wraps up this comprehensive video. Thank you so much for sticking around, it means a lot. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video and subscribe. A big thanks to my patrons for their continued support. You can find links to my Patreon and Instagram below, where I share even more content. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to come back for the next adventure. I'll see you then. Goodbye for now.